We were technically first introduced at Burnley, where we're getting married.
I actually have like almost zero recollection of Loz when we first met there.
But the first time we actually met was at the end of year Christmas party. And I was uncharacteristically hungover. So I was wearing sunglasses, probably coming off as cool and aloof.
And we had a good chat that day. It was quite funny because straight away I thought that she was all right and I was interested. And Loz was thoroughly hungover and had absolute NFI that I was trying to hit on her, which is hilarious.
Apart from his ridiculous good looks, it was actually his manners.
She seemed to have her shit together. She seemed to be a nice person. She was attractive.
And even the straight men at work were keen. I actually thought he might be too cool for me.
I thought she was really interesting. I thought she was like just a good, genuine person. I also thought that maybe she was a little bit of a wild child because it was Christmas party was, on a work day and she was hungover. So
realizing that he was a complete dag was one of the best moments because I was like, yes, I'm in.
Which I was thoroughly proven wrong. What's the complete antithesis of that? Loz needs everything to be stable. It needs to know where she's going with things.
You've got someone on a pedestal and then when you're like, oh no, actually they're not that imagined cool thing that I can't, oh my God, I was going to say penetrate. Cut that out.
So I think there's some disagreement on this.
We were at the Skinny Dog in Kew. We went for drinks. So he, in the afternoon, had a charity concert he was singing in. And I was like, whoo, this is my kind of guy. And I had netball later that night. And I consciously wore my netball gear to the date, inverted commas, as a test. Which I thought was clever because I was like, this will prove whether he really likes me for me.
I think Loz considers that to be our first date, but we actually caught up a couple of times before we called it a date. So I consider our first date to be the third time that we caught up when we actually had said beforehand that it was going to be a date, which we went rock climbing at Hard Rock in the city.
Which I would advise is good for anyone because it involves lycra and trust. It's a winning combination.
And then went to some Mexican place in the CBD. I can't remember what it's called.
So he was brave and he called me and was just like, can we just go on a date? I was like, didn't we already do that? But yay!
I can't remember a bad date. I can remember dates. There's a couple that stick out in my mind of like one or the other of us getting really ticked off at the other person. But even those dates, I don't know, by the end of the date, we would have communicated about what the issues were and kind of come to a closer understanding of how our relationship works. And so that was still good.
Oh, no, a worst date. Actually, it's really obvious now. The date wasn't bad, but we went to this comedy show and the guy was awful. And everyone around us was laughing. And, it's early on, so you don't know the other person's sense of humour. And we were both like, this is not funny, but does the other person think it's funny? Anyway, the date was fine, but actually the show was awful, but it was a good test of the fact we both thought it was awful. It was like a tick. So in a way it was a good thing.
And probably also, especially if Loz does have like a specific one, she can remember everything going wrong. It probably again speaks to the differences between us. Loz is the planner and all that kind of stuff. And I'm the kind of, the go with the flow type guy who just rolls with the punches. So if something went wrong, it probably didn't worry me.
I would be really interested to know his moment, if there is one, because mine's very obvious. I don't know if his is.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We were just kind of laying around and I told her that I loved her. And Loz, in true Loz fashion, was not ready to say the same thing back. And so I actually went away for the 2 weeks on tour. I don't remember thinking that it was necessarily a terrible thing. I think I kind of just recognised that it was early on and that I was making the first leap, and that's the way it goes sometimes.
That's it.
So my favourite book is called Far From the Tree by Andrew Solomon. So I was reading it. It's large, put it this way. I was still reading it and waxing lyrical about it for several weeks. And the author was actually in Sydney at the Writers' Festival, but I couldn't, for whatever reason, make it up to see him. And Kyle had been up there working when he was doing his sort of travelling gigs. And so when he came home, he shows me he's got the book. And I was like, you know what I'm like? Marie Kondo decluttering. Like, no, I've already got a copy. Why would you buy another one? And then it dawned on me, and I opened the front page, and it had like a personalised inscription to me from the author. So yeah, that was the moment for me, just really nerdy, when I realised that I loved him.
Pet names, or Loz calls me Jandy, which comes from like my email having my middle initial, like it's Kyle J. Anderson. So Kyle Janderson, Jandy.
I don't think he has a pet name for me. He just
Really?
calls me Loz. I get actually, even though he would have met me as Lauren because we met at work, there was a tipping point in our relationship where now when he calls me Lauren, I actually am like, don't call me Lauren.
I mean, besides calling her Loz, although she'd probably say that's her name now. She doesn't like being called Lauren.
If he says something else, I'll be really surprised because it must be so familiar that I have forgotten it.
Lozzie Chops, which is like a family nickname. I don't know where it comes from, but I've just kind of appropriated
I
it.
don't think he does. I think he just calls me Loz.
There's another one that just came from me being annoying, I think. And I call Loz Bumface. I think I was just trying to be super annoying one day with that, and it just kind of stuck. So I call her Bumface. She calls me Poohead. I think she would admit to this. She doesn't know. She needs to know what's happening and where she's going, and she needs to have control of those kinds of things.
I would say impatience. I tried to think of a few things about him that I was like, but what's at the heart of that? I think it's impatience. He wants it now.
Creates tension when we travel together because Loz can get overwhelmed in a new space, and I'll be saying we've got to catch that train over there, and she'll be like, why?
Nothing has a place. He puts things down and then can't find them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is lost. I've tried to create little sections of the house where like the keys can go.
Yeah. It's
Usually
like a
the keys
funnel.
are there.
You just
Try and
kind of-
funnel it in.
She needs to read and like be in bed for a long time before going to sleep and turn the lights off. And when you couple that with my body's like unnatural aversion to light when trying to sleep, can make trying to get to bed at a consistent time quite tricky.
Weird opposite of that I never lose things means that on the odd occasion I do, it's like the shit hits the fan. So, I'd say he's more resilient, more able to cope with the loss.
Yes.
My general messiness is that I'm a person who's very happy to just leave stuff lying around and then kind of do it all at another time, which could blow out into being significant amount of time later.
Or it's probably a toss-up between a few ridiculous standards, which feeds into lots of things, such as cleanliness. Not that I like cleaning, but that I like things to be clean.
This is a funny one because we don't give each other lots of presents, and we kind of say each other's presents is the best present type thing.
Yeah, I was going to make a joke about like the presence of his company.
Oh.
I think it's because we're both pretty like minimalist with stuff, and we prefer experiences. So like just like for instance, for our birthdays, we prefer to go away somewhere together rather than buy each other presents and that kind of thing. But probably the best, which is also, it's an experiential thing and like a physical present in a way as well. My 30th birthday last year, just before that, I bought a bike, and I had the bike for less than a week, and the chain was cut and someone stole it from work. And so I got and bought a new bike, but as a secret surprise birthday thing, was organised for all my friends and family to contribute money to pay for that bike. So that was lovely. So not only was it, it's great to pull everyone together and pay for something that was quite expensive, but it was also just like restored my faith in humanity a little bit, which was also nice.
So I had said to him, you could propose with a chisel for all I care. Like I really am not into rings per se, but especially the idea of guys having to buy them for girls, etc. But I probably made that as a very throwaway comment. And Kyle took it to heart. So we were on our holiday in Bali, and he did it like a day or two in. So I also say, like, that's brave, because if I'd said no, that would have been a really awkward holiday. So he obviously had some confidence, but we're at breakfast, sunrise breakfast. So it's, sun's coming up over the water. It's all very romantic. I'm half asleep, but like taking photos, and, they're bringing our breakfast out, all this lovely food. And I hear this rustling in the bag. And I'm just like, oh my God, he's brought fucking chips to breakfast. Like, come on, Kyle. All this lovely food is here, and you've brought some potato chips. And then I saw the cheesels, and I was like, oh, that's happening, and I'm an asshole. All of this happened in my head, of course. But yes, then I can't really remember what he said, to be honest. I think I was just shocked and surprised. But yes, that's how it happened. This is for Kyle, this one. One of the first compromises of marriage life.
That's a compromise?
I didn't really care.
You got a good end of the bargain there. It's like, all right, this is my compromise.
And I get to trade this card whenever I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Look, this is so stupid, but I technically wanted to get married in March, which Kyle will say that in any other year, February 29th is in fact the 1st of March. So,
and what's March mean to you?
Oh, better weather.
For me, it's just a fun date. And when I saw that, like, we decided we were like, okay, we need to probably organise the wedding now that the Marriage Act has passed, and we wanted to give ourselves time, so that made it 2020. And we wanted to get married in kind of late February, early March, and I realised that the 29th is on a Saturday. I was like, this is kismet. You got to do it. No, we're like very independent people. So the things that each person doesn't like doing, we just do with someone else who likes doing it, one of our friends or family. So yeah, I don't think there's a thing that we do because the other person doesn't like it. The things we do together are things that we are happy to do together, mostly.
My first thought was actually brunch, which I don't think he feels that strongly about, but I know he's not into it. And I'm just like, how are you a Melburnian? And just like, I could eat breakfast. In fact, I did today. I've already had 2 breakfasts. Like, it's just my favourite meal of the day. Doing it outside in the sunshine with coffee that a barista made. Like, it just doesn't get better than that.
Physically risky situations.
The thought that politicians aren't acting in the best interests of people and the state of the world, and that will only get worse.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it our achievement as a couple, but something that we at least contributed to the discussion on, and that kind of stuff, was the gay marriage plebiscite and people being able to, gay people being able to get married.
Basically, the fact that we model our values through our actions. So if I think of getting married, for example, the fact that it was important to us to wait that same-sex marriage was legal first, and I guess seeing that play out in terms of the people around us. So we had, family members that might not have otherwise engaged with the issue really care about it because they had a stake in it.
So to be honest, I hadn't actually thought about it that much before Loz, before I proposed, and then there was Loz who first said it. The same day that I proposed, that afternoon, she said that she felt that was a really important thing to do. And as soon as she said it, it just made sense. It almost wasn't even a discussion. She said it and I was just like, yeah, why would we do this thing that other people, haven't been given the right to do, when we can actually use it as a way of trying to highlight it and hopefully affect some change.
Kyle's proposal gave us an opportunity to make a political statement about who can actually get married in the first place. But I didn't feel comfortable accessing a right that other people couldn't. Yeah, and it seemed like a good opportunity to make a point about that. Yeah. And thankfully now we don't have to worry. So, yeah.
No.
Woo! I just feel like we're a rainbow flag. Gay pride.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
I don't believe that having a marriage certificate will make Kyle and I any more committed to each other than we already are. Having it or not having it didn't matter. Like, we're all or nothing people, so we're either in the relationship or we're not.
I see weddings and marry, I see weddings in particular as celebrations of a couple's relationship with their family and friends, and it's a good way to get all of your family and all of your friends together to do that.
Every wedding I've ever been to has been such an awesome celebration of love. And, you know, there's so much sort of hate and violence and suffering in the world. The idea that everyone comes together to celebrate love seems like something you wouldn't say no to or wouldn't want to miss the opportunity to share. We both come from divorced families that live all over the country. And this kind of hit home to me at the engagement party. But really the idea is that at our wedding, that's probably the only time in our whole lives that we'll have all of our family together in the one place.
And so I'm really excited to be able to reaffirm my commitment to Loz in front of all of our family and friends and then celebrate that together.